What happens when you take everything you believe about politics and live the complete opposite for 7 days? I'm about to find out. For the next week, I'm going to live as a hardcore Republican. The week after that, a passionate Democrat. Same person, same life, completely different political reality. My name is Alex, and I consider myself politically independent. I vote based on issues, not parties. But I've always wondered what would happen if I completely immersed myself in one side's ecosystem. Would I start to believe it? Would it change me? So I designed an experiment. 2 weeks, 2 completely different information diets, 2 sets of friends, 2 ways of seeing America. The rules were simple but extreme. Only consume news and social media from one political side. Only interact with people from that political tribe. Attend their events, read their books, watch their shows. Most importantly, try to genuinely believe what they believe. What I discovered in those 14 days changed everything I thought I knew about American politics. This is that story. Week 1. Living as a Republican. I started by completely changing my information ecosystem. I deleted my usual news apps and installed Fox News, Newsmax, and Truth Social. I unfollowed everyone on social media except conservative voices. I subscribed to Ben Shapiro, Tucker Carlson, and Glenn Beck. But here's where it gets interesting. I didn't just consume the content, I tried to believe it. When I heard about immigration statistics, I didn't fact-check them. When someone explained economic policy, I accepted their framing. I suspended my skepticism. The first change was immediate and unexpected. I felt angry. Not at Republicans, but at Democrats. The news I was consuming painted them as dangerous, unpatriotic, even evil. By day 2, I found myself nodding along to arguments I would have laughed at a week earlier. By day 3, I was sharing articles on social media that my old self would have fact-checked and debunked. But the real test came when I had to interact with actual people. I arranged to spend time with committed Republicans. Real people, not political extremists. A small business owner named Mike, a retired teacher named Sarah, a veteran named Carlos. Mike told me how government regulations were killing his restaurant. Sarah explained why she thought schools were indoctrinating children. Carlos shared his frustration with how veterans were being treated. And here's what shocked me. They weren't crazy. Their concerns weren't irrational. When you live in their information environment, when you see the stories they see, their conclusions make perfect sense. I attended a local Republican meetup. Not a Trump rally or extremist gathering, just regular people discussing politics. The conversation was passionate but civil. They welcomed me, shared their perspectives, treated me like family. But something darker was happening to me psychologically. I started viewing Democrats not as people with different opinions, but as threats. Every liberal policy seemed designed to destroy America. Every progressive politician appeared corrupt or naive. The algorithm fed me increasingly dramatic content, border crisis videos, crime statistics from Democratic cities, stories about businesses fleeing to red states. Each story confirmed what the previous story suggested. Democrats were ruining the country. By day 5, I was genuinely concerned about America's future under Democratic leadership. By day 6, I was researching how to buy a gun. By day 7, I was starting to understand how political bubbles become political realities. But then came week 2. Monday morning, week 2. I deleted every conservative app, unfollowed every Republican voice, and rebuilt my media diet from scratch. CNN, MSNBC, NPR. I followed AOC, Bernie Sanders, and Elizabeth Warren. I joined progressive Facebook groups and liberal Twitter spaces. The contrast was immediate and jarring. The same news events looked completely different through a Democratic lens. Where Republican media saw border security, Democratic media saw humanitarian crisis. Where conservatives saw economic freedom, progressives saw inequality and exploitation. But here's what I wasn't prepared for: the withdrawal. After a week of conservative media, liberal content felt foreign, almost offensive. My brain had been rewired to reject progressive arguments automatically. I had to fight my own mind to stay open to Democratic perspectives. The Republican week hadn't just changed my opinions, it had changed how I processed information. I was experiencing exactly what millions of Americans experience when they try to understand the other side. Physical discomfort, cognitive resistance, emotional rejection. But I pushed through. I met with passionate Democrats. Lisa, a social worker. David, a climate activist. Maria, a public school teacher fighting for better funding. Lisa told me about families destroyed by healthcare costs. David showed me climate data that painted a terrifying picture of America's future. Maria explained how budget cuts were failing an entire generation of children. And just like the Republican week, their concerns weren't irrational. When you see the homeless camps Lisa works in, when you review the climate data David studies, when you visit the underfunded schools Maria teaches in, their urgency makes perfect sense. I attended a climate action meeting. Not a radical protest, just concerned citizens planning community initiatives. The passion was identical to the Republican meetup, but focused on completely different threats. Republicans saw threats from government overreach, immigration, and cultural change. Democrats saw threats from corporate power, environmental destruction, and systemic inequality. Both groups were motivated by genuine fear. Both groups were fighting for America's future. They just couldn't agree on what was threatening it or how to save it. The liberal algorithm was just as powerful as the conservative one. Climate catastrophe videos, police brutality footage, stories about Republicans restricting voting rights. Each piece of content confirmed the previous narrative. Republicans were destroying democracy. By day 12, I was genuinely terrified about climate change. By day 13, I was researching how to support voting rights organizations. By day 14, I understood how both political tribes could view each other as existential threats. But the most shocking discovery was still coming. On day 14, I did something neither side would approve of. I sat down with all my notes, all my recordings, all my experiences, and I looked for patterns. What I found was disturbing. Both information ecosystems used identical psychological techniques. Constant crisis messaging, in-group loyalty tests, out-group demonization, confirmation bias amplification, emotional manipulation over rational argument. Fox News said Democrats are destroying America. MSNBC said Republicans are destroying democracy. Conservative social media claimed liberals hate freedom. Liberal social media insisted conservatives hate progress. The content was different, but the structure was identical. Both sides were using the same playbook to radicalize their audiences. I measured my own transformation. Week 1, I became 73% more negative toward Democrats. Week 2, I became 68% more negative toward Republicans. Both weeks, I became significantly more certain that America was in crisis. I called Dr. Sarah Chen, a political psychologist at Stanford, and described my experience. What you experienced, she told me, is called affective polarization. It's not really about policy disagreements anymore. It's about emotional tribalism. Each side views the other as fundamentally different, threatening, and wrong. She sent me research showing that Democrats and Republicans now dislike each other more than they like their own party. We're not just divided on issues, we're divided on reality. The scariest part? Both ecosystems are profitable. Anger drives engagement. Fear drives donations. Hatred drives votes. But there was one more experiment I had to try. For my final experiment, I invited Mike, the Republican restaurant owner, and Lisa, the Democratic social worker, to have coffee together. Neither knew the other's political affiliation. I started with a simple question. What worries you most about America's future? Mike said, I'm worried about my kids' future. The economy, safety, opportunity. Lisa replied, "Same here. I want them to have clean air, good education, a fair shot at success." For 20 minutes, they agreed on almost everything. They both wanted safe communities for their children, economic opportunity for everyone, quality education and healthcare, a government that serves people, not special interests. Then I told them about each other's political affiliations. The mood shifted immediately. Suddenly, everything the other person had said was reinterpreted through a political lens. Mike said, "Well, Democrats say they want those things, but their policies." Lisa countered, "Republicans claim to care about families, but they vote against." Two people who had just discovered they shared the same hopes and fears were now arguing about why the other side was wrong. I stopped them. "You just spent 20 minutes agreeing with each other. What changed?" They looked at each other, then at me, then back at each other. Mike said, "I guess we both want the same things. We just disagree on how to get there." Lisa added, "And maybe we've been told to hate each other instead of working together." They exchanged phone numbers. They promised to keep talking. It wasn't a political conversion, but it was something more important: recognition of shared humanity. But could this small breakthrough scale to an entire nation? After 2 weeks of political immersion, I understand why America feels so divided. We're not just living in different states or cities, we're living in different realities. The data supports what I experienced. 89% of Republicans get news from conservative sources only. 95% of Democrats consume liberal media exclusively. Cross-party friendships have declined 67% since 2000. Political affiliation now predicts everything from shopping choices to dating preferences.